Well, it seems like we're either talking about the stock market or Donald Trump or Joe Biden. And right now it is the vice president who's working the phones, according to reports today. And he's going to be trying to lobby, or he is trying to lobby, some of his fellow Democrats, some of the Democratic leaders in Congress, Democratic National Committee members. He's trying to get support going for the Iranian nuclear deal. Blance Lincoln, the former senator, on whether or not this lobbying will have any impact on lawmakers who maybe have already made their minds up. What do you think, Senator?
Well, I think this, obviously this deal has critical implications, and much of the information, the critical information anyway, is classified, and as it should be for good reasons. So I think there's a lot of members that are still looking at some of that critical information. They're still getting some of that critical information that is classified, and they're gonna determine what's best for them. But there's long-term and short-term implications that exist here. Obviously, to our national security, to the national security, and certainly the security of many of our friends and allies across the globe. So I think members are still really thoughtfully plowing through some of this to figure out what it is that they want to do. So Joe's calls may be helpful to them in one way or another in making a determination.
What should I was just say, what should his angle be? Because to your point, it's a difficult one for Democrats. I mean, look at what happened, or what Senator Chuck Schumer went through. We didn't know whether he'd support it. It took a long time, and eventually came out against it. So I guess two-part question. If you were still in the Senate, how would you vote? And then the second part to what you were just talking about is what can Joe Biden say, the vice president, to convince people who may be skeptical? Maybe you would have been one of those people who are skeptical. I don't know.
Well, the point is it's hard to determine how you're going to vote unless you really do have the information that you need. And I wouldn't be able to determine. I wouldn't be able to say whether I'd vote for it or not, because I don't have access to that critical information that is secure. But I do think that probably the vice president's outreach is to say that we have really worked hard to come up with this agreement. We have worked and tried to cover all of the bases to ensure that if they don't adhere to the agreement, then all bets are off, and that sanctions immediately go back into place, and certain things that we do know are parts of this agreement. But I think he also has to appeal to them just as a friend and colleague, and somebody who has had a tremendous amount of experience in international affairs. I mean, Joe was very well respected and still is very well respected around the globe. He's got many friends in places across the world.
And because of that, and because of what's in the news, and since you're here and we're talking about the vice president, what do you think about the prospect of him running for president?
Well, I think Joe is the quintessential public servant. I served with him in the Senate. There were several years that we were seatmates next to each other. He's a very thoughtful person and a very good friend. He's had good friends in much of the tragedies that he has gone through in his life, but he's also been a good friend to a lot of members. And he knows and understands what public life is about. I think he wants to be focused on the issues that really face our nation, whether it's the economy, making sure that government hopefully is doing its job in terms of being more sensible. There's lots of different things out there that I think businesses and industries are up against that are keeping them from being as competitive as they should be. A whole host of things. The ozone rule comes to mind for me.
But, I know he's talked about it, but I understand all the I understand he's likable. I understand all that, and also understand some of the negatives. But it is. When he's run in the past, it's not like he's come close. He just hasn't done well at all. I wonder why that is. And there's a difference between being a senator and a president, or even a vice president for that matter. Well,
I can remember when I was in the Senate, many of the reporters that covered me said, "Well, you're boring." I said, "Well, I'm boring because I believed very strongly in what I was doing and representing the great state of Arkansas, my home, and the people that I know and love. And I think Joe is very much the same way in terms of he's very intent on governing and being the kind of person that is going to look for the things that are going to make our nation strong, that are going to reinforce families, that are going to put middle class people ahead of everybody else to get this economy going. And I think that, that sometimes, may come off that way. But I do know that he will be thinking long and hard. I think he'll be focusing on, what what does he have to offer? And, you know, is there something that he can really help us do in this great nation of ours? That's the way he's always thinking.
It'll be the big story, or one of them, politically in the next month or so.
For sure.
See, I'm not bored at all in this interview. It was terrific, Senator Lincoln. Thank you very much for coming on. It's good to